My drag is Southern in more ways than it's not. I love sequins, you know, big hair, gross, square-cut French tip nails. There's a certain twang, as much as there is a New York City grit to who Scarlet Envy is. Really feel like my name just kind of found me. I don't have a particular reason for that being my name, aside from it being a very sexy Southern fantasy. And Scarlet Envy was fierce, honey. At least she thought she was. New York City takes care of any self-consciousness in the first week. You can't be self-conscious here and succeed. I guess you can, it just makes it harder. I don't know, I think I've become numb to it at this point. Drag has been full-time for me for about 5 years here in New York City. I'm from Kentucky, and I was a very different person before coming to New York. So as much as my heart and soul is in the bluegrass state and will remain there, New York is where I found me. I never really envisioned myself in this, navigating life this way, but now I can't imagine not having drag in my life because it has really allowed me to come into my own, I guess. It was always me that never wanted to come out. It was, I mean, I come from a religious background, but I never really altered who I was. I was always doing theater. I dressed the way I wanted to, which was a hideous, like, all-express, preppy tie and dress shoes to high school kind of thing. Very embarrassing. The way I got started with drag, I started working on Friday nights at a bar called T&T that I actually was not allowed into because I was underage. So I figured out pretty quickly that if I put on a wig and hosted the show that I could get in and I could drink. I went every Friday. I thought what I had going with drag was something that was very special and something that I needed to continue pursuing. And I still feel the same way today. I would say all of my drag performances have to have meaning to me. Otherwise, you're just looking for attention, and I'm also not denying that I'm just looking for attention too. My drag has changed drastically since I first began. I went through a phase where I only wore red wigs all the time. Nothing else for months and months and months, maybe even years. I don't even remember, I was pretty drunk. But you know, phases like that. You know, I went through phases where all I wore was cheetah print. Like cheetah print everything, which I think is what is exciting about drag, is that I guess you don't have to pick any of those things. Naturally, I come from a pageant background. My mother was a beauty queen. I got lucky, honestly, with my drag inspiration being my mom, because she is just the epitome of a beautiful, Southern, kind queen. A part of me feels like I escaped Kentucky to move to New York and become who I was supposed to be, which is all fabulous, don't get me wrong. But there comes a point where you have to go back home and, you know, address the reasons why I felt an escape was necessary. Another show, another sash. False security with lashes to match. Late night lipstick, it's time to go. Heels high and morals low. Frosted blush on the kitchen sink. Hotel mirror, trying not to think. New York wants what you can bring to the table. You know, you need to know who you are when you get here. That meant, for me, in my case, an embracing and a revisiting of my past, of my home, looking inward at my personal relationships with friends and family. Whether it's a cabaret show live, whether it's a lip sync, if it's not important to me, it's gonna be incredibly difficult to do, and I think it should be incredibly difficult to do. Material is like not easy for me to share. No matter how casually, no matter how many jokes are written in, it's my words, and it's basically my diary, my journal. And so that is what preceded the creation of Smoke and Mirrors.
Jacob.
JJ Grady.
Yeah, the golfer.
Jake Grady.
How you doing?
Jake Grady. I'm
How you
15.
doing?
So we're at Pangea right now, and this is the dressing room, which is not too different than most dressing rooms in New York. It's just wherever they can find a space and make sure there's no air conditioning. It's a very New York way of doing things, I think. I am a little bit stressed out because I'm feeling a little bit underprepared. This is the first, and it's a one-night-only event. I would call this a cabaret. It's almost a play because there's only 3 songs. It is very personal to me, everything that I'm talking about tonight. And it all kind of culminates at this point of basically watching my grandparents say goodbye to each other after 75 years of marriage, realizing that some things in life are not smoke and mirrors. And that's kind of why the show went that way. You know, I didn't imagine it to be, in fact, I kind of wanted it to be more of a darker vibe, a little depressing, a little real. Smoke and mirrors saying nothing's real, don't take it too seriously, basically. And then when that happened, I couldn't write a show about nothing being real. It was so real and so in front of me, the show went a different direction. But I think works really beautifully. I'm talking about that special kind of Saturday night in the Lower East Side ending up on a Monday morning in Brooklyn the following week. Those kind of nights. Fuck.
The mornings that follow.
The mornings that follow the after midnight lessons learned are when they truly sink in. When we're finally left alone to shower off the regrets.
I think that's something that, like, drew us to each other from the first time we met, was just, like, this very real attitude about the fact that, like, this nightlife fantasy is just like a bunch of adults getting drunk in a room. And it's amazing and important and special and magical, but, like, staying in a place of, like, doing this because there is work that we want to share, because there are things in our heads that are, like, worth putting on a stage into the world, and we're excited about people getting that. Meeting you. I don't have mascara, but you're welcome to look through any makeup I do have.
Oh, I found it! You're so good. See how helpful she
Problem
is?
solved. I think about her success, and it just makes me, like, happy for her and happy for the world. There's always felt like a wave coming with her, usually because she just enjoys spicy dairy a little bit too much, but, like, it's always bubbling up, and it's just like a matter of time until the rest of the world falls in love with her.
The sexiest thing of all is a little mystery. Raquel Welch said that, and I think she was on to something. Mystery. Smoke and mirrors. A peek behind the curtain that calls life to order. Or, as Webster defines it, mystery. Something that is difficult or impossible to understand or explain. Synonym. Problem. I'm just gonna pull these off as we're done, and I'll sign them later.
She's always been effortlessly impressive. For someone who's so like strikingly stunning and beautiful, she's always been very like approachable and easy to talk to.
Very down to earth.
Yeah, for what like a big fake person like it is to be a drag queen, like she's just always been like so real, and that it's nice to see that.
Glamour and bourbon ring. Painted up, she can do anything. Swirled her hair like they do in the South. A French tips and a dirty mouth. Another night.
Smoke and Mirrors, I'm the music director, and Scarlet and I wrote the first song we're performing together. And this is her first original song.
Press on, you press on, you press on.
I think it's different from typical drag because it's truly a live performance.
Then I'm gone.
Even just like a basic lip sync performance is just like a jaw-dropping experience. Also, I've seen her flop around on stage not knowing a single word to an entire song and like
It's still fun to
still
watch.
collecting all the dollar bills from everybody.
Get up, turn them on, then I'm gone. I wrote that song, and it's the first time I've ever performed it in front of an audience. Oh my goodness. Wow. Thanks for the straw, but we're moving on from that. Boots was married to Obi for 75 years. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't happen anymore. 75 years. A few years ago, I was outed to my grandfather. He was 91 at the time. Thanks, Uncle Mark. I don't know what words were used, but I can imagine the word sequins was probably mentioned. My mother is very liberal, and she was mortified, and she addressed it with a letter to her 91-year-old veteran father explaining his grandson's situation. He called her and said, I don't really quite understand it, but what you need to understand is that family means everything. And I love my grandson. And I watched a gay documentary to educate myself. 91 years old, watching a gay documentary to educate himself. So anybody that has hatred in their hearts, I like to tell them that story, because if he was 91 at the time, if a 91-year-old man can watch a gay documentary to educate himself, so can I. He was the first loss that I felt in this world. And it was very hard.
And everything going bye. Huh? Did you? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I feel incredibly strongly about the fact that if you're gonna do something as crazy as drag, you have to be doing it for yourself. You have to be. Because if you're doing it for anyone else, you're going to be disappointed. And that's just the reality of it. Because for a long time, I wasn't sure why I was doing drag. I wasn't sure who I was doing drag for. And when I made it clear to myself that it was for me, I felt much more fulfilled. There's definitely a power that comes with sequins. Drag gives me the opportunity to be larger than life. So out of it, I don't necessarily want to be all the time. which is kind of the exciting thing about drag, is that you can be a celebrity after midnight and nobody knows who you are at the deli the next morning, you know? It's a special kind of famous, I guess. You can take it off, you know? Cutting my teeth, so to speak, in Brooklyn is something that I'm very proud of and something that will always be a part of me. My roots will be in a dive bar, sweating it out with, you know, a whiskey in my hand. Because that's truly where my roots are. You know, if you can ride the subway and drag, you can do anything, as they say. I don't know what the future of drag holds for me. And I'm comfortable not knowing that. I love what I do. I love who I am. And I'm not sure what tomorrow brings, but it's not bothering me all that much.